on. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Tales from the Heart. It is December 13th, 2024. And for this edition of Tales from the Heart, I am joined once again by Dr. Marty Maron of Leahy. I keep wanting to call it Boston, but it's not Boston. I'll just call it Massachusetts. Marty, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good. As you can hear, not perfect. Kind of losing my voice a little bit with some laryngitis, but otherwise I'm hanging in.
Okay. You feeling okay? You just sound a little rough.
Exactly. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So, Marty, it has been one hell of a year. It was probably one of the most event-filled years of HCM in a long time.
Yep.
And I thought it would be kind of fun as we're in December, heading for the holidays, wrapping up the year, assessing where we've been. If we kind of walk through the calendar and talk about some of the really amazing things that we've been able to do this year for the HCM community from various vantage points. And before we dive into that, I wanted to kind of reflect on the past couple of weeks. I just got back from DC yesterday. You were down there as well for the cardiovascular clinical trialist meeting. One of my favorite meetings of the year, I have to tell you.
Yeah, mine too. I love that meeting.
It is
Yep.
amazing. But we'll get there chronologically about the actual meeting itself. But I came there from California where we did an event at Cytokinetics, and we had a great time out there. And then a couple of weeks before that, we were at AHA in Chicago. And a couple of weeks before that, we were at the summit and had our meeting. Like, so many things have happened. But the thing that I keep hearing out of all of these events that we've been going to is how many people are tuning into Tales from the Heart, and how many people really appreciate you and Steve and all of the other physicians that have joined, Michael Ayers, Alex DeFaria, industry leaders. They're really enjoying hearing HCM information and discussion at this level. So I thought the concept could work. We've had over 150 episodes. So it's nice that we're resonating with more people and bigger audiences. So thanks to all of you who are listening. And it's not always the most podcast in the world, but that's what makes us real. So having said that, back at the beginning of the year, I said, hey, want to come to Washington, D.C. and do a Hill briefing? And you went, sure, let's go to Washington. So let's reflect a little bit upon that. What was it like to go to Washington, D.C. and have a briefing at Capitol Hill to talk about HCM? Your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it was really cool. I mean, it was a really unique experience, I have to say. Something I'd never done before, obviously. It was really kind of powerful. You really felt the weight of the power that exists in that kind of institution, of course, and engaging in people at the meeting there on Capitol Hill was really powerful. And, I learned a lot. And I really thought that it was an amazing opportunity to push forward, in ways I never thought we would ever have, the agenda for HCM and the patients. And so it was great. And I think, maybe you could take people through a little bit of what that was about exactly. Some may not have an idea of what the role was there for us, but I'll let you do that. But my own impression was that it was really just an amazing and unique experience that was very, very powerful.
So thank you. And thank you for being part of it and taking time out of your very, very busy life to come and represent in that way. And our thanks to all the others who participated. So what we did was one of my local congresswoman, Mikey Sherrill, secured a room for us in the Rayburn building of the Capitol, where we held a briefing, and we brought in a couple of different perspectives on HCM and a call to action. Some of them were for federal legislation, some of them were for state level legislation that could help us with identifying the undiagnosed and being prepared for cardiac emergencies and ensuring access to care. So we explained the disease a little bit. What is HCM? Why are we here? Why is it important? We then had patient stories, which were on really interesting perspective. So we had an NBA player with a diagnosis of HCM. We had a mother who has HCM and lost her daughter to delayed a diagnosis, and Marcia, who was 83 and three quarters,
Right.
QVC model, rocking her HCM life. And then we talked about health equity and some access issues with some of our other friends. So our point is to raise awareness about the needs of those with not only chronic medical conditions, but chronic cardiac conditions, and specifically those are genetic. We didn't do anything wrong as patients to get stuck in this disease state, and we have a very challenging path to get care to this complex patient population. So we started the conference. This was our first conversation with the Hill, as I call it, and it was a starting point for us to develop a relationship with our federal legislators and make sure that they understand what's important to us as a patient community. And it goes into so many different directions when you start talking about policies. And this isn't a right versus left thing. This is a human thing and an access thing. And how do we all work together? So we had our first soiree in February. This year we're going to push it off to April because there's so many changes going on in DC. We kind of want to let, everybody kind of settle into their new roles, and they're only open the first 2 weeks of February. So Heart Month is a little challenging to get in. So we're going to go in April when the weather is better, and we're going to talk about the issues that are important to us, including things like generic drug quality, access to healthcare for those with pre-existing medical conditions, the use of genetic testing and genetic therapy technologies, and the evolving healthcare world we're living in. So we're staying current on policy and making sure that policy and science and people are connected. So it's really cool, and we look forward to doing it again. So we got through February, which was Heart Month and HCM Awareness Day. We got more proclamations for HCM Awareness Day than ever in each state. And we are targeting another couple of states this year to try to round out our collection. So if you are living somewhere in the United States and want to see if your state has an existing or needs a new proclamation for HCM Awareness Day, which is the fourth Wednesday of February every year, you can contact Julie Russo in our office, and Julie can help set you up with how to get a proclamation done in your state. And you can kind of be the champion for your state. So jump in. The more, the merrier. So then we ended up at ACC, which we were thinking we were going to be talking about some news, but it didn't happen at ACC this year. I'm doing the highlight reel. So then we find out that ESC Heart Failure Conference is coming up in May, and the data on the Cytokinetics trial is going to be presented. So I had to get on a plane and go to Lisbon.
Right.
And let's talk about Lisbon.
Sure. I mean, so, this year, has brought us, further advancements in the science as well in HCM. And that has included evidence through the completion of what we call a phase 3 clinical trial of the second in class cardiac myosin inhibitor, second to, of course, mavacamten. And the name of that drug is called aficamten. And what we were presenting and what you're alluding to at the European Society of Cardiology were the results of the phase 3 trial of that drug, aficamten, in symptomatic obstructive HCM patients, where aficamten showed excellent efficacy at making patients feel better and function better, and did it in a way that was very safe, with very few patients experiencing ejection fractions that were less than 50, and in those didn't even require stopping the drug. So overall, very good evidence for the efficacy of aficamten and excellent safety as well, kind of supporting the idea that that could be, if it's approved by the FDA, and there's an application for that approval in process, another great option, drug option for symptomatic obstructive patients based on that clinical trial data. So huge, huge advancements again in our medical therapy for HCM that continues to swing the pendulum in the right direction.
So I had a sneaking suspicion that this was going to be a pivotal moment in HCM. And that's why I got on a plane and went to Lisbon.
Right.
Not that I really like flying over big oceans very much, just to say. But I thought it was going to be an important moment to be there. And a couple of really interesting things happened. Now, I've sat through quite a few presentations on drugs and discovery, and here's a clinical trial and here's the outcomes. And people are listening and interested and taking notes and maybe snapping pictures of the screen of what points they thought were important. But never in my life, and I've been doing this like 27, 28 years, have I ever seen applause breakout in the middle of your presentation that seemed to confuse you a little bit. The look on your face, I wish I could snapped a picture of it. I might have gotten like after it because you're just like, I don't know what to do. What was that moment like, Marty?
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I mean, I've been doing this a long time too, and I've never experienced that, nor have I ever seen that happen, where the audience breaks out in applause in the middle.
And not just a little.
No, right.
No, you couldn't talk.
It was intense. You're right. I mean, I had to stop for a fair amount of time to let those applause go, dissipate. You could feel the energy and enthusiasm behind that. And I think that's what it shows you. I mean, it shows you that people there were reacting to the strength of the evidence of this drug in making patients feel and function better. I mean, that was what you were seeing. And in a disease where we have had very little of that ever. And so, that's a testament really to the enthusiasm around aficamten was that applause.
It was a remarkable moment, and I was really glad that I got to witness it in person.
Yeah.
The energy in the room was palpable. Like
It was.
I'm an energy person. Like I pick it up, but it was so excited. It was so positive. And as somebody who's been trying to serve patients for a really long time in this disease state, it really was a moment where I think we doubled down that myosin inhibition is the path for many people, and it can get more selective and even better as we go forward. So
Yep.
Thanks to everybody who contributed to the science from the very, very beginning to where we are now, because we're not at the end yet. We still have a lot of work to do to see, how does this work in other populations within HCM. But the obstructed HCMs are going to have more options than ever, hopefully on or around September 26th, 2025. So we're coming off of a crazy, busy, exciting year, and we're moving into another one. And at this point, it's like 9 months and the baby will be born, and we'll have something else on market potentially. So, we have a regulatory process to get through first.
Yeah, exactly. And, and then also to say as well that this year, now, as long as we're on the topic of the science a little bit, further evidence, for example, with mavacamten, with longer follow-up and exposure to the drug, demonstrating in those studies from this year that the pressure gradients in the vast majority of patients remain low, and that patients continue to feel well over longer periods of time than the initial trials. Okay. Demonstrating reliability over time is an important point here, of course, because many patients that are going to be taking these drugs are going to be relatively young and are going to need to be on them for long periods of time, okay, to mitigate symptom burden. And in general, too, safety on that note as well was generally very good as well, okay? There still seems to be with mavacamten, importantly though, a subset that can get systolic dysfunction at any point on the drug. And so that seems to continue to support, at least in my view, the REMS program in mitigating safety issues. I don't know what you think about that, but that was my take.
I'm kind of on the same page with you. I've seen some people who were stable for, many months or even a little over a year and then drop EF out of nowhere. So we need to understand that mechanism a little bit better before we can pull back on some of the surveillance.
Right.
I am encouraged, though, with some technology that's coming for the use of technology to help interpret basic echo parameters. So AI read, wearable read, EFs. If we can find a way to perfect some of that science a little bit more,
Yep.
it might be easier to do the surveillance. I'm not saying we don't need to do the surveillance. It might just make it easier from the
Yep.
patient's point of view and the clinician's point of view.
Totally agree. I think this is
Yeah.
one area where technology is going to be helpful, I think, for sure, as a tool. And artificial intelligence, AI, applied to imaging, cardiac imaging, I think will help fill that gap. I agree. And I think we're going to start to see more and more of that over the next couple of years.
Just in the past 6 months, I've seen a real big, move towards how do we embrace AI carefully? How do we let it be the aid to the clinician and the aid to the patient and not something to be afraid of or to not trust? So I think we're building those algorithms and we're building that data so that we can maybe lower the burden on the entire healthcare system on how we're monitoring these patients.
Yep. And then as well on that note is that, aficamten, which has a slightly different pharmacology to it. And that may be one of the reasons that it has less or had less low EF events than mavacamten. If you look at the two sort of phase 3 trials, obviously, as we just said, aficamten is not approved yet by the FDA. It's under review. If it is approved, then there will be the question as well next year of whether it will have a REMS program associated with it at all, or if it does, is it going to look significantly different than the one we have right now for mavacamten? And those are also important things to look out for next year.
We are continuing to evolve our understanding. And, I know sometimes patients get a little frustrated. It's like, well, haven't they figured this out yet? Because we're all learning together. We're doing this in real time. If we don't do it in real time, patients aren't going to have the benefits that many are seeing, but there's a risk associated with that. And, dare I say, as we move into this new administration, and there's going to be a lot of regulatory changes, but we have to make sure that patient safety is staying core and discovery is being encouraged, and that the pathways don't need to become more arduous, but they need vigor. So it's that balancing point that we're going to have to fight for, and we're going to need the entire community, every member of the ecosystem, to speak up and share their perspectives as we move forward. Going to be more important than ever.
Yep.
So technology is advanced in 2024. Our understanding of mechanisms for some of these myosin inhibitors are growing, but the role of things like myectomy are still as important as they ever were. And to maintain good quality, high volume surgeons, is becoming an interesting aspect of HCM care that I think we all need to pay attention to, because drugs aren't the answer for everybody.
That's right. No, that's right. And, I think we're going to have to, as a community, perhaps come together more than we have soon to really try to address, how to continue to maintain the legacy of good trained surgeons that can do myectomy and interventional cardiologists for alcohol ablation. We need both of them, and we'll always need both of them as treatments here for the reasons you just said. Not everybody is going to get the benefit with drug therapy. And by the way, there are also patients who, prefer, to pursue a surgical option at the point when they may be choosing between a myosin inhibitor and surgery, because that fits more into their expectations, their views, desires, and wishes than long-term drug therapy. And we should be able to provide patients like that a great operation, not just today, but in the future. And so I think we're going to have challenges there that we're all going to need to address, including the HCMA, to help there.
We're definitely not going to be bored over the next couple of years. No. We have a lot of work to do. And, things are going to have to change, because we're going to scale up here to be able to address bigger problems. And training of physicians in HCM, no matter the discipline, imaging, surgery, interventional, genetics, we have to build the next generation of clinicians and researchers while we're treating patients in the modern era and looking forward to what we might be able to do in the future. We have a lot of options out there, but they have to be organized, they have to be collaborative, and we all have to agree to just move this ball forward together from our own angles.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. Finish that.
I was just going to say, the health insurance issues that we're all dealing with today. I'm going to go there for just a minute. There's been so much said in the past week about the problems with our healthcare system. And what happened in New York is not the answer. Right. We're not, this violence is never the answer.
Right.
But the palpable frustration and anger and just visceral reaction to my health insurance company said on every level of the ecosystem is broken. But we must look deeper into where the problems really are in healthcare funding and costs and the whole pathway. So I'm working on a couple of projects you'll hear about in the coming months, but we need to speak more clearly about the burden and the costs and the responsibility and the waste and the waste and the waste and the waste. The pre-authorizations that you're going to all have to do right now, if you're on mavacamten, if you're on Camzyos at end of year, if you're on Medicare Advantage, everybody dropped. All the Medicare Advantage programs said it's off formulary. So everybody's went into a panic, and they're like, oh, it's off formulary, I can't get it anymore. Actually, that's not true. You just need to go put a pre-authorization back in, go through the process, and approximately 85 to 90% will get covered. But who needs that stress at the end of every year to wonder if I'm going to be able to get my med next year? This is not a stress factor that cardiac patients need to live under. We need to know where we're going to get our meds. We need to know how we're going to get them. We need to know what they're going to cost us. The system is broken. We need to fix it. But shooting people in the street is not the answer. The answer is talk about where we can make regulatory change to take healthcare dollars and make them serve the patient and not the system. I'll step back from that one now.
Yeah, no, those are great. Those are great comments and so important. And we continue to look to you and the HCMA to help lead that for the community, at least give us direction as we go forward and leadership there. I was just going to say, just to round out, I guess, in a way, since we're on highlights, the scientific end of things. We talked about aficamten. We talked about, some more evidence about the longer term safety and efficacy of mavacamten.
Mhm.
Then, of course, the last year brought us the first patient who was dosed with gene therapy
Mhm.
in hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And obviously, on this podcast and others, there's been a lot of discussion around gene therapy and what that may or may not mean as we go forward. Obviously, it's going to take a long time to get some understanding of what that therapy really means and who should get it if it is ultimately helpful. But we would be remiss, of course, not to mention in a highlight segment that achievement.
It's a massive achievement and more to come. And I suspect before the year is out, we are going to get some additional data from Tenaya Therapeutics on what has happened with the first 3 patients who were dosed. So I am cautiously optimistic that it is going to be positive information. And I base this only on the fact that their data safety monitoring board has changed the requirements for the trial and made them a bit more relaxed. So they're now looking for obstructed and non-obstructeds. You don't have to have an ICD. The BNP can be a bit lower, and they've increased the age to 75. So if they're opening up enrollment, that's telling us that there's not a problem, then things might actually be looking optimistic. But we'll get some more data later this month and close out hopefully 2024 on a high note. And I know they are still recruiting for trial participants. If you have MYBPC3 and you're interested in learning more, give the office a call and we'll get you that information. There's additional gene therapies being evolved in some of the less common HCM spectrum disorders or mimickers, Danon disease, PRK. There's other things happening. And it's super exciting to be living in a time where we might actually be able to use the C word. We might be able to cure some people. That blows my mind. But it's early days and it's not going to be all and it's not going to be for all. But damn, what an option to have. And who knows where it will go from there. So I'm just super optimistic on that one. We'll see. So other highlights of the year, we're going to soon get to October, but I do want to spend a minute talking about my trip to ESC and the first time ever the HCMA had a trade show booth for medical education on the floor of ESC with our partners at PCM Scientific. So I wanted to spend a minute and talk a little bit about HCM Academy and how that program is touching hundreds of thousands of individuals with great HCM education. And you, myself, Steve Amon, and Anjali Owens are on the faculty there, bringing in thought leaders from around the world to provide webinars that are free and CME and great quality. So we engaged over 600 people in that booth, tiny little booth. 600 people were engaged. So many more just came on as soon as we got them the information about the academy. They've been going on to taking the course, sending it to their colleagues. It's working. It's working. What do you think about it?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're right. It is a highlight, for this last year was, the evidence really that kind of program, which is really the first of its kind, certainly for HCM, an academy that really has developed tools, teaching tools, for the practicing community globally to access and improve their understanding on diagnosis and management and care of HCM patients has just elevated, as another example, really the overall, kind of level that we're operating on in this community right now, in a way. And it's huge. It's just simply huge. And it really fills this gap that we've needed for a long time in the educational space as well. A gap that was really growing because HCM continued to be more and more of a kind of a niche disease. And the academy has come in and really tried to fill those gaps so that, general cardiology, general practitioners, wherever they may be practicing, can learn about this disease in a way that can deliver care to patients that's effective, no matter who they are or where they are. And so I'm super excited about it for that reason.
Yeah, we had a good year with it, and we're looking to do more. And it keeps evolving as our understanding evolves. The curriculum changes, and it is right up to date. Like there's no lag. And and if you haven't ever participated in HCM Academy, you're welcome to log on, create an account, and take some of the courses. And the patient stories there are awesome as well. And Marcia, who I mentioned earlier, her story is there. So go take a look at that. Maybe I know Stacy's going to be dropping some links for us today, as Ross is not here at the moment. Excuse me. Any water? Marty's left the scene for a second.
I'm just plugging my computer in.
Okay. Oh, that's always an important part of this. So we'll get him back up here in a minute, because the next topic is going to be, so that was September, October. So we tried to do Heart Failure Society, and a hurricane came and kind of blew that out, which kind of blew out HCM Society's meeting, which ended up going virtual, but was successful in and of itself. But then I ran down to AAP, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and that was the first time I did that conference, to engage pediatricians in understanding HCM and helping us change laws like what we had been calling the Healthy Cardiac Monitoring Act. We've actually changed the name to the Children's Cardiac Safety Act. It's a little bit more specific for legislators to understand what we're doing. But the same elements that we want to look for: family heart health history triggers in HCM and other diseases in the well child examination. So we're getting them on board with this initiative, and that leads me into some of our legislative wins this year. We have a very generous donation from an individual who lost his spouse earlier this year to HCM, and they come from the state level lobby point of view. And he has helped us by hiring us a consultant to help us on some of these initiatives. And those efforts have already shown some fruit. We're getting HCM Awareness Day in Virginia ratified, and we have a sponsor for a bill in Massachusetts, and we have a sponsor for a bill in Minnesota. So we're moving along with our legislative initiative. If you're interested in helping out in any of the states that you live in or work in or play in, please, again, contact Julie and say you want to get involved in the project. So we've made a lot of progress there, and more to come. And I think we finally have the cadence we need to kind of start bringing these things to fruition. And then there was a press release right at the time of the summit. I don't know if you caught it or not. Last February, I got an award from BioNJ. It's sitting behind me. Thank you, BioNJ. And I put a call to action out to the 700 members of the New Jersey biotech community, that if they want to really improve clinical trial participation, that they themselves as companies can step up and offer clinical trial days off to their employees, because we know lower wage or earners are not going to be so quick to take off time to do a clinical trial. And just adding it to their community service time off or PTO policy, that it doesn't count as, against their sick or vacation time. And all of a sudden, BioNJ thought that was a really good idea, and they took on the initiative, and they're offering the challenge all across New Jersey. And at least 6 companies have signed up that they're going to allow their staff clinical trial days off. And I just got a request from a researcher who wants to do a study on, do clinicians and pharma employees actually participate in clinical trials? Why and why not? So I think that's kind of interesting as well. Like, put your money where your mouth is. So we're starting a different kind of conversation about clinical trial participation and being a little provocative.
Right.
So that was kind of fun to get that out there. And then we had this summit. It's like you had another child, and you get to do it, what, in 2 years?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I was really happy with, I think how the summit, the International HCM Summit in Boston went in October. Steve Amman, who I did the meeting with, as well as my dad. I think we worked hard to put together a kind of a unique program that I think a lot of people appreciated the content, how it was delivered, and the opportunity to really kind of dig deeper into some of these topics that we've got in HCM with discussions among the experts that really, I think, brought to life in a way a lot of the material that we've got right now that is, in some ways hard to always know what the right way is in this disease to go, and the diagnostic and management ambiguities were really discussed in a way that was, I think, for a lot of people very helpful. And so I was really great to hear that feedback, and we were very, very happy overall with how it came out. And we had an incredible production team with Emily Lalone, exactly who is our event planner, put together an incredible meeting from a production standpoint and an organization standpoint with great AV team as well. And so, we took the bar, I thought, a little bit higher than we had in the past as far as the meeting goes. And we look forward to doing it again in 2 years. There it is, Summit 8. Yep.
Still using the notebook.
Good.
Right here.
Good.
So I have to say, because I've run my fair share of meetings, the logistics of a meeting are where it lives and breathes, and you shouldn't see it if you're a participant. If you see it, it's broken.
Right.
Emily is a magician, and it all just worked. You didn't have one AV glitch.
Yep.
You didn't have one badge registration glitch. Like, it all just worked. And the vibe in that room the whole weekend was so good, so positive, so engaged on every level. And it's going to be hard to beat. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know how, we always try to do better the next time.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're going to do better next time. Just do it again and it'll be fine.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And as always, we appreciated your support, the support of the HCMA, and Stacy was on our program committee and helped to provide important insights and comments on the content too as we develop the program. So we appreciated the partnership.
As did we. It's been a long time coming type of project. We've always helped support the knowledge of the summit and encourage all of our Center of Excellence partners to send multiple representatives to stay up to date on the science. But this year we integrated ourselves a little bit differently into the meeting. It had its logistical challenges for us as well, but we held Saturday night at the summit. We ended up entertaining 180 participants at the summit.
Yep.
With just who we are and what we're trying to do to make sure they all understand who we are. But we also featured a pretty amazing story to show how we've come full circle in clinical trials to real life, to clinical practice into real life, to advocacy into real life, throwing a story of a New Jersey Lisa that was not me, who was one of your patients here in Morristown and Boston, who then transferred over to Matt, who then transferred over to NYU because she needed a transplant. And then through the universe, her donor happened to be at Leahy when he passed away.
Oh, that's
and the Leahy team worked in coordination with the OPO to get the heart to New York. They got the heart to New York. We connect that. They look for each other, but they can't find each other. There was a problem at the OPO. The mother of the deceased individual, Michael, ended up reaching out to our OPO to see if there was a catch here. They got put in touch with each other a couple of months ago. And I said, oh my God, they're from Boston, Leahy, NYU, Morristown. It all was there. I'm like, would you like to unite with the family? So we brought the donor family and Lisa, the pictures of grandma listening to Michael's heart in Lisa's chest. You could hear a pin drop as they were talking about their stories. Everybody in the audience understood
right.
Clinical trials that had to happen, the clinical care, the timing and the magic that made that moment happen. It's amazing. It was amazing.
It is amazing.
And then we had a patient meeting the next day, and then we all went home very tired. So it was a great meeting. Wish it was a little bit longer. If I did it again, we would structure it a little bit differently to give more time with the docs talking. I wanted to get the docs home. The patients wanted the docs there for more time. I understand it won't be that way next time. Next meeting will be October 18th here in New Jersey, and there'll be plenty of bar time with the docs because that's the fun stuff, right?
That's right.
That's where the real conversations happen.
That's where the real truth comes out. That's exactly right. That's always been the case. Yes.
Always been the case. Okay, I was like thinking about like an old meeting. Like this is like random flashback. I saw your brother also at CVCT. Didn't get a chance to talk to him much.
Yeah.
But I remember sitting with your dad at the Westin in Morristown, and he wanted to get to the TV at the break because Brad was going to be on TV on an article that he had written that got some press about digging holes in the sand at the beach and how dangerous it is.
Yeah, beach holes.
Beach holes.
Beach holes.
So completely random callback. And I'm like, that happened at an HCMA meeting.
Yeah. No, a lot has happened at the bar after the HCMA meetings. A lot. We need to continue that tradition.
We need to bring her back. So October 18th, 2025, come and see us.
Yep.
So Marty, I know you're really busy and your voice is struggling. So I'm not going to drag this too much longer with you today, but I just want to kind of wrap up the year by saying we have like 10 days to kind of chill out and relax between like Christmas and New Year's, and Hanukkah and New Year's, and because it's all at the same time this year, which I like being a multicultural family. Like we just kind of throw it all out there. We got our menorahs next to our Christmas trees. We're a little confused, but it's okay. Just the way we rock.
This is the whole world right now confused. So you're not alone.
No, we're not alone, but we are going to be heading into a really chaotic 2025,
yes.
In good and bad ways, probably.
Yep.
It's going to be more important than ever that we as a community are talking amongst ourselves and sharing best practices and trying to solve problems rather than identify them, because they're going to become very obvious very quickly. So I'm going to encourage everybody to put their solution hats on and think about, okay, this is an angle. This is where they're going to try to pull things. What can we do to make it better? How can we use our voices collectively to make it better? And healthcare is at a tipping point. Government regulations at a tipping point. Where are we going to go? How can we make it better? You may not agree all the time with what's happening, or you may never agree, but we are going to have to work together to solve problems. Industry, clinicians, government, nonprofits, citizens, we are going to have to work together. Global citizens. We have a lot to learn from people outside of the United States in terms of healthcare delivery. They've got some good things that they're doing that we could emulate here. We've got some good things we're doing here that they can emulate there. So it's going to be an intense year. You're going to hear some other interesting podcasts, projects that we're working on to bring to our community. We're going to be doing a pediatric HCM kind of masterclass for clinicians. Jeff Tobin and Steve Lipschultz are going to help guide that effort. We're going to be working more with pediatric cardiologists to try to make HCM care in the pediatric space look a bit more like it does in the adult space and work on best practices there. It is kind of different right now. So that's going to come up every other month for the clinicians. We're going to add a new discussion group that's going to be every other month, probably on genetics. I'm going to host that one myself, and I'm going to bring in some speakers to talk more about what are we doing with genetics? What is genetic therapy? What are the different types? What do you need to know? What is actionable? So that's going to be content over next year. We're going to be in person in at least 4 places next year. We're going to be in Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Orlando, and Seattle for in-person meetings, as well as our New Jersey meeting. We're going to be on the road a lot. We're probably going to be at state houses. And if I put out a call to your state, we need patients to come to state houses. I'm sorry, I'm telling you right now, you're not getting much notice. You're going to have like 4 to 6 days notice. That's it. If you can come, great. If you can't, don't worry about it. But for those who can show up, please show up. Probably going to be at the State House in Massachusetts sometime in the next year. So I'm going to drag Marty out of clinic unexpectedly. Sorry. to whoever's appointment gets screwed up. I apologize, but it's for the greater good.
There you go.
Be patient. We'll make it all happen.
There you go.
Marty, any final words for the year?
No, just that I hope everybody has a kind of peaceful, restful, healthy end of the year and reflects back on how much, has been accomplished. It's been absolutely incredible. As you said, it's been the most productive year, I think, in the history of the disease, history of the HCMA. I don't think there's any question about that in a way. And that means there's a lot for everybody to be very happy and proud about. And it's good momentum going into the next year. So it's awesome.
Absolutely. And I would not be a nonprofit leader if I didn't remind you that your tax-deductible donations can be made through December 31st.
That's right.
Every dime helps. And if you can give $5, thank you. If you can give 500, thank you. If you can give 5,000, thank you. Whatever you can give helps us do what we do here every day, and that is support the patient and elevate your voice.
Yep.
I will tell you that we did make a big change. So my last notice for the day, our office has expanded. While I was out of town, the wall got broken down, and we have room for our new employees who will be on the phone starting January 1. Are just so much other stuff going on, and I'm getting a new desk finally. So my desk is almost falling apart. I'm not going to lie to you all. So my new desk is coming in next week, and I'm getting a standing desk, and I highly recommend them. So we stay moving and fit and active, and that's my goal for next year. So I wish you all a happy holiday season and a healthy one, and get ready for next year because it's going to be wild. Marty, thank you. Happy holidays to you and your family.
Thank you.
My best
You too.
wishes to your dad and to the whole family.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
And, okay. Happy holidays. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Marty.
Okay.
And